Hey guys, my name's Alec and welcome to my brand new channel, the Jet Ski Goons. I'm going to be hosting your video. Today we're going to be talking about my 2024 second generation Spark Trixx versus my 2019 first generation Spark Trixx. I have one full year of ownership, or I should say one full season riding the new machine. And of course I've owned this for 6 years now. If you're in the market for one of these, do you need to spring for the brand new, redesigned, looks different, has all the updates, or is something like this going to suit you better?
They tell me that I'm never gonna make it. They want me to do something that could make sense. They hate when I keep dreaming I'll be famous, but I don't give, I'ma keep chasing. I got all this potential that's deep inside of me, but they hate when you're successful cause they try to be. They sit there being judgmental because you're trying things and
I've made YouTube videos on jet skis for over a year now, but I started a brand new channel dedicated to jet ski content. I had a channel that I set up and it was primarily for truck, pickup truck, and performance truck content. I put some of my jet ski content in there and it seemed to do really well, but it also kind of confused YouTube with what kind of content I was creating. So I have a brand new channel here. I would really appreciate if you subscribe to it and help me get to my goal of monetizing this channel in 2025. We have all kinds of cool riding content planned that I'm going to release here in the near future. But of course, it requires a demand from the people who want to watch it. Let's do a little background here. I bought this machine for my wife. This is her primary machine. There it is. Oh no! We upgraded from her 2018 Spark Trixx to this in April of 2024. I bought it brand new from a dealership, and it has 14.2 hours on it for one season. Another thing about this machine is when I bought it, I optioned it as a one-up machine just because it's my wife's machine. It is her ride. We do not ride two-up. We just have our own separate machines. I got this one, she's got this one. So we optioned it as a one-up just because they're a little bit more playful. That 13 inches or so of extended deck for the 3-up does get in the way when you're doing tricks and trying to spin the thing around and turn a wheelie into a submarine and that kind of stuff. So having the 1-up was an advantage to us. My other machine is a 2-up, and I like not having that deck on the back. So whatever way you end up optioning your machine, if you're getting a 3-up, just know that that deck on the back will affect your tricks a little bit, but if you're brand new to the machine, you're probably not going to notice a huge difference. This is my other Spark Trixx. This is a 2019. I bought this brand new in February of 2020, right before COVID hit. I couldn't have planned that better if I tried. This was a leftover model. I got a great deal on it. I actually bought these both from the same dealership. This is my primary machine, and it has 97 hours on it. I'll go over some of the mechanical differences. There really is none. That's the short of it. It's got the exact same engine, it's jet pump, a driveline. The fuel tanks are the same size. I did notice that the second generation's fuel tank is moved into the center a little bit more. It's a little bit closer to the center of the machine, whereas the first gen's a little bit further up in the nose. But aside from that, everything from the center of the hull down, or everything that's mounted in the hull, is pretty much the exact same. Don't worry about the second gens have a better engine than the first gens or anything like that. Everything is pretty much the same in regards to that. Now between the two, I'm one of the guys that has to work on everything myself, and I also have to modify it. I can't resist doing it. It's genetic at this point. I have to tinker with it and I have to make it better. Let's go over the modifications that these things have. This one's real simple. It's just a front storage bin. It's a factory front storage bin. There's not very many modifications out there for these machines, so the front storage bin is all that we have done to the 2024. This one, I've done pretty much everything you can do. We can start with, I've done an impeller, I've done a tune, I've done a ribbon delete. We have a rear exit exhaust. I have done a front storage bin on it as well. We have turf in the footwells. And there's a couple other small things that I've done to it with the graphics and the stainless steel washers and just things that you do over time of owning one of these. So that gets into overall what's done to these, makes them a little bit more enjoyable to ride is modifications, in my opinion. Now let's go over some of the pros of owning this machine that I have noticed over the last year of riding it. And that would be the front storage bin does not have the straps on it anymore. So the first generations, you have 2 straps on each side that you need to undo to lift up the lid. And also then you have to pull the strap away from the bin to lock it in. I just pulled on that strap hard enough to move this machine and it still didn't latch. Now we come over to the second gen and the bin actually has 2 pegs on it and it just pops into some rubber grommets. So it's very easy to just close the bin by pushing down on it and pulling up on it to open it instead of pulling on straps. So the bin redesign was really nice. I will also talk about the fact that this bin is bigger, and if you're a Spark rider like myself or you're looking at getting a Spark, you know that storage space is very limited. So having a little bit bigger bin on the second gen is a nice perk. If you're carrying stuff along with you, it's nice to have a little bit of extra space. Let's talk about the next thing. The display on the 2024 is so much better than the first generation. First generation, just a normal digital display, black and white. This one's got some color to it. It's dimmable. There's not much more information on the second gen Spark displayed on the actual display in the machine, but it does tell you miles, which is a little bit interesting to me. It's not something that they included on this. That's about it in regards to display, but the display on this it looks a lot nicer. It's a little bit bigger, and it seems like it functions a little bit better with the controls on the handlebars. Over here on the 2019, all you have is trim on and off. Over here, we got the modes so that you don't have to push the red button in the center of the screen anymore to go into your modes. You have your trim, you got your start stop, and you have the ability to toggle through your hours and your miles and that kind of stuff. Let's talk about the link brackets in the back that come factory on this second generation Spark. The first generations, if you wanted link brackets, especially on a 2-up, you had to find a way to place them so that it actually fit, because there's not much room back there. You had to buy the link brackets separately to mount them on yourself. Now on the second generation, it comes with link brackets in the back. If you don't want to use them, you just push them in and hide them away. They're flat. The deck is flat. If you want to use them, you pop them up and they're right there for you to use, and they fit most link accessories that Sea-Doo sells. Don't even have to install them, which I think is a really nice perk. We can talk about the couple different modes that this machine has that this one does not. So the second generation has something called Trixx mode. It also has sport, normal, and econ, similar to this machine. Let's talk about Trixx mode for a second, and I'm going to show you some videos while I'm talking here. But Trixx mode allows a couple things. Bucket on the back for your IBR is a lot more sensitive. It responds quicker and it's very touchy. It allows you to do those super cool nose dives into the water, and I think that's pretty cool. I've tried multiple times over the summer to try and get my first generation to nosedive, and it just does not have the responsiveness of the IBR. It takes so long for that bucket to get down. When you stab that IBR, it doesn't seem like it's responding very quickly, and it also just cannot do a nosedive, where the second generation just dives that nose right in and makes it super easy to bring the water up into past your storage bin and up into the front cowl area. So I think that's pretty cool in regards to the modes. We can also talk about the fact that reverse donuts are so much easier on the second generation Trixx than the first generation. The first generation, it'll do reverse donuts, but it doesn't get you going fast enough where you can really turn it into a trick or link it in with another trick. It's just kind of, you're spinning around at the dock or something like that. It's more for maneuverability, where this reverse donut is more for play. You can do a reverse donut, start a wake, turn around and smash into it with your nose and get this thing submerged up to the handlebars. That's really fun. And one of the things that my wife really loves to do is spray me out the side while she's doing a reverse donut. I can't tell you how many times I've been sprayed over the summer, but she likes to lean the machine a little bit to the side, and all of a sudden there's a geyser coming out the side of the machine. That's pretty hard to do on the first generations, and I've only seen the 3-ups really be able to do it, and they don't spray very well. So that is a perk of the second gen. One of the last things that I want to talk about, because I work on all of my own stuff, I've split the deck on this thing to do maintenance and oil changes and spark plugs about 7 or 8 times just on this machine alone, and I own 2 of them at one point, so I've done it a dozen times in my Spark ownership. This machine has an access hatch underneath the seat. So where you place the fire extinguisher, you can pick that up. It allows you to do oil changes easier. It allows you to do spark plugs easier. And if you have some other general maintenance, I like to clean the map sensor every couple seasons. So it allows me to do that with the access hatch. And I can't tell you when I'm going to have to split this thing next, because I don't have to with that access hatch. This machine, to do anything other than an oil change, if you want to do plugs, it's best to just split it. It takes less time to split it than it does to try and mess with doing plugs, reaching your hands around into there. So one of my big perks is having that access hatch on the second generation. So let's talk about some of the pros to getting an older machine. Specifically, since mine's a 19, I'm going to talk about like the 2020s and older with this first one, because this machine actually has a bilge pump. Now, starting in 2021, around your COVID times, the first generation Spark Trixx got the bilge pump removed, and no one really knows 100% why it was. We can guess that it was a cost savings. We can guess that it was to sell more accessories. We can guess about what it was. But the 2020 and older machines, Trixx's, came factory with a bilge pump, which I think is pretty important. You can turn a bad day on the water into a real crappy day if you don't have a bilge pump. I do plan on outfitting this machine with a bilge pump here in the future. But buying an older machine, 2020 and older, seems to be the cutoff for having a factory bilge pump. So that is one advantage to buying something older. Now, they're about 100 to 150 bucks depending on which one you go with. The next thing that we can talk about is generally the price. That's an advantage to buying something a little bit older. If you can buy one of these first generations with 10 to 20 hours on it, doesn't have a whole lot of use, you can get one of these in really good shape, low hours. You're kind of going to be like the first owner. It hasn't had a whole lot of required maintenance at that point, or missed out maintenance, that you can buy these for a pretty affordable price compared to buying one brand new. Let's also talk about the fact of, I mentioned it earlier, I love to modify stuff. Why is this thing still stock? Because there's not a whole lot of modifications out there for it. When I talk about the second gen, the first gen, I bought it the same summer that I first started riding it. I had most of these modifications on it. So at this current date, there's definitely more modifications for the 14 through 23 Sparks out there. So having mods available is an advantage to the older machines. Now let's talk about one of the things that I think is controversial, and I'm going to say looks. I think that the first generation Sparks look better than the second generation. Now, I'm not saying that I hate this look, but I think that I like the sharpness of the first generation a little bit more than the bubbliness of the second generation. I think it looks sharper. I think it looks a little bit more menacing, a little bit more mean. And this one just kind of looks like a whale, to be honest with you. So that's kind of one of my personal advantages to buying an older machine. So this is what you came to watch this video here for. Is it worth buying a second generation, a newer machine, for maybe the $2,000 to $3,000 more that you can buy one of these compared to one of these? In some states, you're not paying sales tax on a used machine where you do pay it on a new one. So that might also contribute to the overall cost of buying something new or buying the second generation over the first generation. I'm going to tell you honestly, second generation not being nearly as modified, I choose my first generation almost every time, just because it's more playful, and the tuning and the impeller, makes it so much more enjoyable to use. But I will tell you honestly, aside from aesthetics, the added benefits of this machine does not necessarily mean that I want to pay the extra 2 to 3 grand if I have to. Now, I did because I liked the machine. I wanted to have a new one, and I wanted it to kind of be an upgrade for my wife from her previous 3-up machine that she was riding. But I don't think that you have to buy a second gen. There's nothing that's so much better, so much more improved, that makes riding it so much better, that you can't get on the first gen. The biggest disadvantage to buying a first gen is having to split the deck when you want to do maintenance, but you can still do your yearly oil changes without splitting the deck. It's just every couple of years to do plugs and stuff like that, you are going to have to split the deck. Like I said, I do that in 26 minutes or less. So splitting the deck to me is not a huge inconvenience, but I'm definitely going to enjoy it when I don't have to do it on this. So overall, Do I think that you have to buy a second gen? No, I do not. I don't necessarily think that if it's 5 grand for this one and 8 grand for the other one, I don't think you have to spend the extra 3 grand, especially if you don't have it. The second gens are very nice machines. I will say having a $100 machine and having a brand new machine, the brand new machine is so much tighter, it steers so much nicer, and it's just overall it feels like a new machine. So guys, I hope this video answered your question about what I think about the second gen versus the first gen. I also hope that you considered subscribing, and if you didn't subscribe, please leave me a like so that I can at least reach more people to potentially subscribe to my channel. I got a lot of cool videos with not only the second gen Spark coming up, but also my first gen. We're going to be doing a pile of modifications to the second gen because we're finally starting to get into the territory of aftermarket companies making parts for it. And we're also going to have a bunch of videos on my 2021 four-stroke Superjet that I also own. You might wonder why these machines don't have as many hours on them. We have 4 jet skis to spread the hours out upon. So I got a bunch of videos in the works, got a bunch of videos that are already edited that I'm waiting to post. So if you could subscribe, I really appreciate it. Until I see you guys next time, peace.